really like to clear up right away nowadays, only because I've had several people over the years ask me seriously if this was the Mississippi River. So, I just like to make sure that, everybody on board, first of all, knows where in the world you are right now. This is the U.S. East Coast. We are in the state of Georgia here, and indeed, this is the Savannah River. Yes, I see some skeptical looks on your faces, and yes, unfortunately, that has happened numerous times over the years. But I gotta say, there is a question I got last year that I feel like I need to start clarifying this one as well. So I had one day somebody ask me whether this river flowed into the Atlantic or the Pacific Oceans. So of course I told them the Gulf of Mexico, right? Yeah. Why not? But I think most of you probably know that it is the Atlantic Ocean behind us, and that's about 14 miles as this river runs. And then it goes up about another 300 miles, starting in a little town called Hartwell, Georgia, way up ahead of us there. Now, this river here also happens to be the natural border between the states of Georgia and South Carolina. Of course, we got Georgia on the left side, or the port side of the boat. South Carolina is off to the right side, or the starboard side. And by the way, I will be saying port and starboard a lot during this trip. So, just in case you don't really know your port from your starboard, there is a pretty good simple way to remember it, as long as you already have a really good grip on your left and your right. Well, folks, a moment ago I just told you that South Carolina is off to the right side, didn't I? Well, it is. It's over there. But this piece of land you see off to the right, that is an island called Hutchinson Island, Georgia. On the other side of that is a section of our river called the Back River, which is the border, and then you'll find South Carolina over there. Now, what I think is interesting about Hutchinson Island right here is that most of this 7-mile-long island you're looking at right here, most of that dry land that you see is composed of what we call dredge material. Now, dredge material, simply put, is the mud or sand they've been scooping or sucking from the bottom of this river and depositing over there somewhere for the last nearly 200 years of almost continuous dredging that's taken place here. Because you see, folks, when this colony was first founded way back in 1733, this section of our river right here was only about 12 feet deep. So beginning back in the early 1800s, they began scooping it up. Nowadays, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers maintains the depth at no less than 42 feet at low tide. And this is something they got to keep up with on a near constant basis. It's literally a never-ending job, because if you think about it, there's always mud eroding from the shoreline or silting in from upriver. This river's always trying to fill itself back in, so they're having to constantly keep it at that proper depth. Well, about 6 years ago now, this massive new project got started here in this river. It's called SHEP, or Savannah Harbor Expansion Project. Now, when it's all said and done, this project is going to end up costing right around $1 billion to complete. That is with a B, billion. And the goal of this project is pretty straightforward. They are in the process right now of digging this river up 5 feet deeper, which maybe doesn't sound like a whole lot for, spending $1 billion, but to be fair, you are talking about 18 miles worth of river that has to be dug up, not to mention the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of environmental concerns you need to overcome for this massive dredging project. So once it's all said and done, in about 2 years from now, well, we'll be able to accommodate even larger, deeper drafted vessels here in this port. But what's kind of crazy though, folks, is that for the most part, they're doing this giant billion-dollar project to be able to more easily accommodate some of the largest ships we already have coming into our port. You see, these size ships that I want to talk about here are known in the industry today as new or neo-Panamax size vessels. Now, has anybody out here ever heard of a Panamax size ship before? At least like one guy, 2 guys over here. So not a very commonly known term I've found, but Panamax simply means the largest size ships that can fit through the Panama Canal. Listen to me tell you all about the Waving Girl. I promise you, it's a pretty good story. So, Florence Martis, she was born way back in 18 books. You just imagine for a second. Just imagine this poor girl growing up on an island with just personal information about her. She used these logs as didn't want the rest of the world prying into her personal business even after her death. And it makes a whole lot of sense to us because, at this point in her life, she knew she had become quite famous. And, one of the weird... You might be thinking, what is this guy even talking about? Because, that's not the story that I've been told about the baby girl since I've been here in Savannah. What does this guy even say? So some of you may have already heard this much more popular artist. She really was because the baby girl in Savannah. Also, these defenses, well, look, some of you may already know this, but the Union never had to fight their way past these defenses here, right? To capture the city, because they had somebody named General William Tecumseh Sherman and 60,000 of his closest friends who all decided to gather up in Atlanta for a big party one day. And then they ended up marching their way through Georgia and taking the city in December of 1864. So yeah, that was the end of the war for Savannah and Fort Jackson right here those days as well. It's a lovely thought. Anyway, guys, as you can see, we're getting turned around. I just have one more quick story I want to talk about, though, and then I might not be able to take a break because we are going to see that big old ship. You can see it right now, again, above the tree line, upriver there. We're going to be beating that vessel here soon. But one more quick story I want to talk about, then I'm going to try to take a break here. But as we go back upriver, there's these two red buoys we're going to pass on our starboard side. Now, the first red buoy we're going to pass by marks exactly where that ironclad that I called Georgia was anchored during the war. The Css Georgia, or Confederate States Ship Georgia. So, this was an ironclad that was modeled after a very famous ironclad some of you may have heard of, called the Merrimack. Well, when they began building the Css Georgia here, they ran into some big issues. One of the biggest issues they faced was kind of ironic because they couldn't get a hold of the iron plates to build her armor. And I think that was ironic because the whole reason they were trying to build this vessel was so they could send it downriver and smash the Union naval blockade off the coast. But why do you think they couldn't get a hold of those iron plates to begin with? It's because of that Union naval blockade off the coast, right? You kind of see their conundrum here. That is why they had to improvise. They began to tear up railroad tracks in the area. They used the T-rails that the trains ran on as the vessel's forward topsides. Seemed like a brilliant idea at the time. But of course, being the boat,
Be on the thinking.
Our drink
on the
with
port side.
straws.
It's gonna be on the port side.
There goes Deb's straw down there. I don't know where the blue one went.
The answer, my friend,
Probably in the water.
is
somewhere.
floating
It's gonna be on the port side. If you want to go over there quick before everybody else runs.
Well, them fists in the air. And I know these pilots on board are kind of annoyed with me landing something for us a lot to try to get them to blow their horn. Especially up front where you guys are playing on the front. Thank you. We got the exercise portion of our business. Love those fists hard right there. I bet you can There you go. Hey, look, the guy in the bows is pumping his fist. I think he thinks we're saying hello to
I feel like I'm back home with the pothole.
These couple of vehicles registered in Marseille, France. As you can see, the French flag flying on the side.